Duncan Duo Real Estate Show, Christmas edition. Next couple of weeks, obviously, we're during the holidays and we're talking all things real estate. And this time of year, it gets a little interesting in the real estate world. Andrew Duncan with the Duncan Duo team at LPT Realty. And when we aren't on air, make sure you're following us on all of our socials at the Duncan Duo, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, you name it. Pretty much every single social media channel out there at the Duncan Duo. Follow us for all your updates on Tampa Bay real estate. I want to talk today. This is a time of year when a lot of people are, first off, you're home with your families, or maybe you're listening today and you're not local to Tampa Bay and you're traveling from somewhere else. And so, this is usually a time of year when people are kind of disconnecting, kind of reflecting on the year past as well as, planning for the year ahead. So I always like to spend some time talking to clients, customers, as well as our listeners this time of year about your planning for 2026. So who I'm talking to right now are basically people that are going to buy or sell real estate or potentially thinking about improving their credit, getting other debt, applying for credit in some other way, and you need to improve your credit score. So first and foremost, there are a lot of home buyers out there, and we run into this all the time. Our partnership with Citywide Home Mortgage, they'll run people's credit, and they'll find out, man, great income, but there's some credit problems that people didn't know about. The downside of AI and a world that lives in the cloud is that mistakes can happen. Scams and fraudulent people using your social security number, or even as I experienced last week on my Merrill Lynch brokerage account, somehow someone placed a trade for a treasury bond, a purchase of treasury bonds within my account. And obviously it got all reversed and they did the right thing and took care of it. But there are things like that happen all the time with people's credit, where there's accounts open or charges, or sometimes it's a mistake. Sometimes it's actually a family member. Sometimes it's a scam. Sometimes it's simply someone that has a similar name and it got reported to the wrong credit profile. So I want to talk about this idea of, understanding your credit, improving your credit. And, that starts with the common sense baseline, which is looking at your credit report. So all of the major credit bureaus, I think there's freecreditreport.com, there's some websites, pretty much all of them will offer you at least one free credit report. And most consumers out there in one shape or form have had some identity stolen or some lawsuit that's involved them, where you very likely have free credit monitoring. A lot of people, you'll get the email or the postcard and it'll say, hey, we're going to give you free credit monitoring because your information was stolen in a data breach. You should always take advantage of those things and put locks or alerts on your credit profile to prevent things from happening. But if you haven't done that yet and you find out there's a problem, first and foremost, get your credit report, look at it, question it. Reach out to the reporting agency, whether it's Equifax, TransUnion, Experian, if there's something wrong on it. Something like, a medical bill that's not yours, a collection that's not yours, an account that's reporting an incorrect, incorrect balance or an incorrect credit limit. All of these things really do matter. So when there is something incorrect on your credit report, it can be something that causes your rate either to be higher or your ability to qualify for credit to be declined. So if you notice disputes or disagreements, you can dispute those things. So your rights under the Fair Credit Reporting Act allow you to dispute those things. There's a couple different ways you can do this. You can either do it directly through the credit bureau, you can mail, you can call. But the purpose of this is to prevent identity theft, but also for you to be able to clean up your credit before you go and make your major purchase. Again, way too many consumers put the cart before the horse. It costs consumers, in my estimate, billions of dollars a year because they don't do what they need to do up front on their credit. They end up either not getting credit or getting credit at a higher rate because they didn't do the work ahead of time. It's kind of like, imagine going into surgery and a surgeon is going to operate on your heart. They didn't do any imaging. That's what you're doing when you go out to buy a house, or when you go to a dealership to buy a car, or you float into rooms to go during the holiday season and you want to get some credit for new furniture. If you didn't actually look at your report to determine how they're judging you, to determine what kind of offer they'll give you, you're flying blind. So first and foremost, get your credit report and then look at it from a standpoint of correcting errors. Now, the second thing you can do, depending on how imminent your need for credit is, there are things that you can do to improve your credit score. Some of those things will depend on your actual score, but I'm going to go through some of those today. First, obvious, no-brainer, disputing things that are incorrect on your credit report. The second thing you can do is improving your utilization ratio. So, for example, if you have 3 cards and you're near maxed out on all of them, you can either opt to look at getting, and again, depending on how close you are to your credit need. If you're months and months away, or if you're really close, the things you might do could be completely different. One of the things you could do would be to get new lines of credit so that you have more available open credit and you're not utilizing all of the credit you have. Another thing you can do is you can seek to get your credit limits increased by the people you're getting credit from. So, for example, if you got a couple of cards and they're at $10,000 or $20,000 each, you can look to see if they'll bump up your credit limit. Then you look more attractive to someone seeking to give you credit because now you're not utilizing the full portion of your credit. Other things you can do, you can negotiate interest rates or move your debts over to lower interest rate payments by either balance transfers, consolidation loans. Those are things that can work. You can refinance things like cars. Sometimes it's as simple as paying a card off. You may have cash in the bank and the lender may advise you, hey, look, you need to take that cash and pay this off so your debt to income improves. So all of these things matter. Certainly there are ways that AI can help you with this. If you're someone that uses a large language model, if you use Grok, which is my preferred, or ChatGPT or Claude, or Gemini, you can take your credit profile, you can upload it, you can ask it for help in determining what you can do to improve your credit score. If you don't have credit or you don't have enough credit, you may need to establish some credit. Now, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and a lot of the mortgage lenders are moving towards a model where there isn't a minimum credit score anymore. And that doesn't mean that your credit doesn't matter. It just simply means that there can be consideration for giving someone a loan if all things check out right and maybe you're a few points below what the minimum would be. So nonetheless, your credit still does matter. You want to improve your score. You want to improve how you look to creditors. So paying off debts, disputing things that are incorrect. Sometimes you can dispute things that are old. Maybe they're past the timeline that they're supposed to stay on your credit. You can also ask for consideration. You can even renegotiate things. You can renegotiate your rate. You can renegotiate your fee structure. All of these things matter. So these are tips and things that I would recommend. Always want to stay on top of preventing identity theft and staying on top of your credit score. I prefer to have a freeze on mine, and then when I'm going to apply for credit, I can log into apps and do the unfreeze. That ensures that it's less likely for someone to be able to steal my credit, or scams to happen. Nonetheless, you need to be paying attention to your credit. It matters. It matters for you to get debt. It matters for you to get debt at a certain price, and it certainly has an impact on your ability to qualify for home. Another thing that can improve your credit, let's say, for example, your credit isn't great, but your partner's is, whether that's your spouse, whether that's your significant other, you're not married. It could even be your children or your parents. Becoming an authorized user on the credit of someone with a great credit profile will also pull your score up. So one tip that I like to give parents is, hey, look, I know not everyone wants to buy their kid a house. I know you may not have the means to give your kid money to buy a house, but you can early on add them. If your credit profile is good, you can add them as an authorized user. And parents, if your credit is maybe not great, your kid can add you as an authorized user. Now, this adding as an authorized user doesn't mean you necessarily have to give the person the card. For example, my daughter is an authorized user on a few of my credit cards. Now, she doesn't know this, and she doesn't have the cards. But it will help pull her score up and give her more open lines and make her debt to income look better, especially because they're cards that are paid in full every single month. So you have to be cautious about doing this. You certainly don't want to do it without someone's consent. But the key is that someone else's credit profile can help improve your credit profile as well. And of course, paying off debts, renegotiating debts, all of these are things that can help improve your score. I encourage you to track your score as well and track the progress of the things that you do. There are agencies like at our mortgage company, citywidetampa.com. We do have credit repair specialists that can help guide you through, and even for a fee or consideration in your mortgage can help do this for you. But there's a lot of it that you really can do yourself with some research, with some help from AI, and following a couple of different websites or blogs online. The key, though, is to stay informed, stay on top of your credit, and be proactive, but start the process early. Let me repeat that. Start the process early. If you're going to buy a home in 6 months, start working on your credit now. Okay. Don't bury your head in the sand. Don't say, oh, I'll do it when it's closer. You may not have enough time if you wait until a month before you're ready to buy. Your spouse may find the dream home, the first house you go out and look at. And I can tell you, because I've seen the look in husbands and wives' faces when they've let down their partner, when they've gone out to look at houses and they knew they should have done something sooner and didn't, and now they can't buy or they lose out on the home of their dreams, all because they weren't prepared. Again, I use the analogy. If you're a heart surgeon, you're looking at scans and images of the heart that you're about to operate on. If you're about to buy a house, you need to be looking at your credit profile, because it is the heartbeat of helping you, buy a home in today's real estate market. It's also the heartbeat of all things financial. Car loans, furniture loans, credit cards, you name it. The more your credit improves, the more benefits and value you get. Even from a standpoint of better credit cards, benefits on cards, certain points, certain sign-up bonuses, free this, free that. All these things open up based on your credit score. So those are tips that I have to help you during the holiday season get ready to take on credit or buy a home in 2026. And we're going to be back, continuous conversation after a quick break here on the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show. So we're back here on the Duncan Duo Show talking about the Tampa Bay real estate market. And, I had this question, and I talked about it a week or two ago on the show, and it was, what was my prediction for the real estate market in 2026? So I want to use this segment to touch on that. And, first and foremost, I believe that I'm already seeing signs in the last couple of months of the year in my business that tell me that the real estate market in Tampa Bay is going to be better in 26 than it was in 25. And I'm going to go through a few, points over the next few minutes about why that is going to be. And again, this is Andrew Duncan with the Duncan Duo team at LPT Realty, 20-year real estate agent broker within the Tampa Bay market, a few $1 billion in sales. So I got a little bit of a track record in seeing the ups and downs of real estate markets through my career. And what I can tell you is that the last couple of years have been rough. And they've been rough for a lot of reasons. One, obviously, economic pressures. Two, interest rates. And three, and probably the most pressing for Tampa Bay, were the hurricane impact from last year. So the first reason why I believe our market will be better in 26 is the elephant in the room, and the biggest thing that's impacted and harmed our market, which is the hurricane impact. So, I talked to friends in other markets that had massive hurricane impacts, and, we got hit with two big ones back to back. And even if your property wasn't damaged, the damage to Tampa Bay as a region from a marketing perspective, from a fear perspective, as well as the impact on areas and the kind of the hangover from storm impact impacted the entire market. It slowed down our market. It canceled sales. It turned people to other parts of the country or other parts of Florida. It had a massive financial as well as psychological impact. The longer we get away from that without hurricane impact, the better our market gets. So first and foremost, we had a clean hurricane season. Hopeful for another one, and again, another year with a clean hurricane season, and our market improves even more. The second reason why I believe the real estate market will improve in 26 is because we have seen interest rate relief. Now, it hasn't translated, the Fed drops haven't completely translated to an interest rate drop. What I mean by that is the number of bips that the Fed has dropped hasn't completely turned into the same number of bips on mortgages because the way the Treasury yields work, but it has caused interest rates for mortgages to drop. They are lower than they were a year and two ago. So they're trending in that direction. Most people expect that to continue. I expect that to continue. I don't know if it'll continue as aggressively as the president is pitching it, but I think that leads towards the real estate market improving. And it does twofold because, one, it brings more buyers into the marketplace and gives them more budget. The second thing is it pulls some sellers off the fence. The lower the rate gets, the more that sellers that are sitting in homes with 3% and 4% mortgages, the more motivated they get to say, you know what, now I want to sell my home and buy another. And those are two transactions. So I believe that increases transactions. Another reason why I believe the real estate market in 26 will be better. Now that President Trump has been in office for a year, he has another year maybe of, maybe more, but another year of controlling the House and the Senate. I believe that we will see some pro-real estate actions, legislation and politics that help improve our real estate market, whether that's the proposed 50-year mortgage, whether that's tax benefits, whether those are executive actions to make public Fannie and Freddie or more publicize them. All of those things lead towards, me being more bullish about real estate in 26. The last thing, which I think is the wild card, and that is property taxes. One thing I've learned about markets, whether it's real estate or stock or crypto, whatever it is, the markets move ahead of the news. They move ahead of the speculation. So when interest rates are expected to drop, the market prices it in and predicts it. When the Fed is expected to put in liquidity, the markets move in the direction of the expectation, not the actual news. So as we get closer to the end of 26, there's going to be a lot of talk about the abolishment of property taxes or massive property tax relief in Florida that could lead towards some homeowners not having property taxes at all. There's a big push throughout the country. It has momentum. Our state is aligned from a political environment to have a chance at having that pass a 60% constitutional amendment. The closer we get to that date, the more bullish real estate becomes because it will knock some people off the fence. It will also move some people here. As it gets closer to that date and becoming more likely, if the constitutional amendment happens in 26, then this impacts in 27. But the market moves ahead of that. Okay, so if it starts to look more and more likely, our real estate market will see some improvement. People will act in anticipation of that because they'll want to act before the pump up that the market would expect from homeowners not having to pay property tax anymore. AKA, prices would go up and people would move here. We would have more demand. We would have more appreciation, and a lot of the rumblings and complaints about the scarlet letter in our real estate market, insurance, would go away because taxes are a lot more than insurance. So for all of those reasons, I'm very bullish and optimistic about 2026 and 2027. And if you want to stay up to date and see as the statistics come out, you want to know what's going on in the market, you can follow us at The Duncan Duo on all of our socials. You can also know what's going on in your neighborhood with your house. DuncanDuo.com. Type in your address, gives you a free market report. You get to know, what's going on in your neighborhood, what your neighbor sold their house for, who in your neighborhood's in foreclosure, all of that. You can also get an instant cash offer at DuncanDuo.com. And we're going to be back continuing this conversation after a quick break here on the Duncan Duo Show. So we're back here on the Duncan Duo Show talking about the Tampa Bay real estate market. Andrew Duncan, the Duncan Duo team, LPT Realty, at the Duncan Duo when we aren't on air. If you want a free home value estimate, just hit up DuncanDuo.com. You can also get an instant cash offer if you're someone whose home didn't sell during the holidays, you're frustrated, you're ready to move on. You can, again, get an instant cash offer at DuncanDuo.com. Just the last few weeks alone, we've bought a handful of homes. We're always looking to buy more instant cash offers. And again, my goal is to buy your house and close on it. There are a lot of wholesalers out there that don't have my reputation or my, the funds that I have backing my purchases. They're simply wanting to lock your home up, give you a fantasy land number, give you a deposit, and then they go out and shop your contract to hope to assign it to someone else that would actually close on it. We don't do that. Our goal would be to close on your house, to buy it, close on it, renovate it, and then either rent it or resell it. So speaking of renovation of homes, I've had Revive Design and Renovation on the show a couple times. And again, that's Revive Design and Renovation. You can check them out on Kennedy Boulevard. You can find them on Google. Revive, it's pretty easy. They're a great remodeling contractor. So some of the things I'm going to talk about in my next segment don't apply to them, okay? If you want a luxurious, amazing design renovation, by someone that's going to do everything right, above the board, they're our go-to. They're who we would recommend. They do an incredible job. They do it all right, and they do a clean, quick, as quick as a contractor can be, because none of it's quick. So the things I'm going to talk about, the horror stories I'm going to talk about in my next segment, don't apply to them. If you want it done right, call Revive. So finding the right contractor for renovations. Now, this is something I want to advise you. One of the worst mistakes in my entire home ownership history was doing an addition to a home that I lived in. So, and this is someone who has a massive amount of real estate, both renovation, sales, brokerage experience, owning multiple real estate companies. And it was horrific. So I want to caution you that if you're thinking about doing an addition on your home, okay, there's a cost associated that a lot of people forget. They think, okay, well, I'm going to improve my house. I'm going to make it more valuable. Instead of giving up my low interest rate, I'm going to stay in my house. I'm going to make it better instead of going and buying the other. 9 times out of 10, the customers that we worked with through the years that do an addition on their home, that live in it while the addition is going on, 9 times out of 10, they wish they hadn't. Okay. Now, so a renovation, a little bit different. If you're doing a kitchen or a bathroom or floors, some of these things can apply to that as well. The additions are the worst part of it, though. So you want to make sure that you're going to find a contractor that's licensed, permitted, insured. You want to talk to customers who have done work for them. Okay. And let me repeat that. You want to talk to customers that have done work for them, working from a referral, asking your real estate agent, asking us. Again, you heard me talk about Revive. They don't really do additions, though, and this is probably why. Additions are challenging. They always take longer. They cost more. It's a nuisance. Your home is your paradise. You work all week and you come home on the weekend, but guess what? They're still there. They're working. They're showing up at 5 a.m. and jackhammering around while you're trying to sleep in on your Saturday. They're having your dogs bark. They're interrupting you. They're showing up when you don't expect it. You basically lose the privacy and control of your home. And so if you're going to do an addition, first off, I'm going to recommend against it. I'm going to encourage you, instead of doing the addition, to really think twice about the inconvenience it causes, because you don't know what you're walking into. If you've not done an addition before, I promise you it is going to be way worse than you think going through it, okay? Most of the time, it's not worth it, especially if you have to live in the home. Now, if you can go stay somewhere else, or you travel a lot, you travel during the week, you live alone, if you have a family and animals, and you do an addition on your house and you're going to be opening it up to contractors all the time, absolute nightmare. Let me repeat that. Absolute nightmare, okay? Sell your house and go buy a house of the one that you want. And you may say, oh, I don't have to pay commission twice, okay? You are literally going to live in hell for months and months and months, and it's going to cost you more than you think. It's going to cost you more than the commission and closing costs you're trying to save by doing 2 real estate transactions and moving, okay? Moving is quick compared to dealing with the consequences of giving up control of your house, giving up access, the violations of your privacy, the constant interruptions, the stuff that's the coronas that are left all over your all over your garage, all over your yard, okay? It is a nightmare. I cannot recommend enough that if you're thinking about doing an addition, if your spouse is thinking about doing an addition, go onto my website, go onto our podcast, play this episode for him, okay? Hundreds of customers through the years have done additions. Very rarely are any of them happy, especially while they live in the home. The only time they ever are happy, okay, the only time that they're ever happy is when they don't spend a lot of time at home. That's it. Outside of that, it is way more painful than you're expecting. You're going to tell the construction company, who generally is going to use labor that isn't their own labor, okay? They're going to sub it out. All these construction companies don't have a bunch of labor on staff. They don't have a bunch of employees. They sub everything out. They take your job, they take a VIG, they take a percentage off, and then they hire out other people to do the actual work, okay? They have no control over these people. They're going to say, hey, we need you to go do this. Well, these people are literally going to show, I'm telling you right now, they're going to show up whenever you tell them not to. You can say, hey, I don't want you working Saturday at 5 o'clock in the morning. They're going to show up Saturday at 5 o'clock in the morning. Hey, I want you to pick up your beer cans. They're going to leave their beer cans. I'm 100% telling you, it is like hell on earth living in a home that you're having an addition done on. So sell your house, buy another one, okay? The second thing that I would tell you to do if you're thinking about hiring a contractor, don't rely on reviews, okay? Don't. Get referrals from actual customers that you can speak to, okay? Reviews can be slanted. Reviews can be fake. AI can fake them. They can hire people and literally, they can be faked, okay? Talk to someone that has worked with that contractor. Ask them for recommendations. Make sure that you're not just talking to their buddy. You should be able to go online and look up the person's home and see that contractor actually did work on their home. Make sure you're talking to people, because again, contractors are almost, especially with an addition, they're definitely going to overpromise and underproduce. They're going to tell you we're going to be done in 3 months. Double it. It's going to be 6. They're going to tell you the price, add 50%. It's going to be more, okay? Most contractors are really good at selling you the job and then not executing, okay? Again, are there some great ones? Of course, Revive, for us, on renovation work, does a great job, but they don't do additions. Now, let's talk about the next things you need to look at. So, again, talking to actual customers, don't just rely on reviews. You want to look at the quality of work. You want to stay local. You want to confirm their insurance, secure multiple written estimates, but more than anything, seek word of mouth recommendations. And then, this is an important one for contractors, okay? If it's not in writing on an actual contract form, it does not exist, okay? Well, I told them that they couldn't come on Saturday. That will not get relayed to the people doing work, okay? If you don't want them coming on Saturday, it should be in the contract. If you want it done by a certain date or they have to pay you, it needs to be in the contract. I am at the point now where I have commitment dates. When are you going to be done? Okay, well, if you're not done by this date, what's the consequence? That's what you have to do. If you don't do those things, it will take forever. They will book other work. They will get too busy. Most contractors are absolutely horrific at booking work, getting overbooked, and then not being able to keep up. They may be good at construction, but most aren't good at running businesses, okay? So get it in the contract, okay? It's supposed to be this dollar amount. Get it in the contract. You don't want work on these dates. Get it in the contract with a penalty, okay? You want to be able to have something to show them. You cannot rely on word of mouth. I told them not to show up on Saturday. I promise you, when that contractor hires a subcontractor to come out and do work, they didn't they looked for the cheapest guy because they're trying to make a profit, okay? They didn't make sure to tell that person. They're not going to communicate to that person to not go to your house on Saturday at 6 a.m., They're not. Got to have it in the contract. And there needs to be consequences in the contract. It needs to be done by this date or X. No Saturday or X. No this or X. It really does need to be specific. And I hate to say it, but I've seen it happen far too many times where people get taken advantage of by contractors. The last thing you need to do is you need to verify that they actually are a contractor, okay? This is a mistake I made early in my career. I hired a guy to work on a home that I was renovating that was not an actual licensed contractor. He had done a bunch of work for other people I knew, so I assumed that he was. Well, come to find out he was not, and it caused all kinds of problems with permitting and issues to the point where he wasn't licensed, and it cost me a lot of money to repair that. So again, make sure that you're dealing with someone licensed and insured. Verify all this information. Verify who the actual contractor license is under, and then get everything in writing. Get the financial structure, how much you're supposed to pay and when, and how much, what their obligations are, what your requirements are. If you expect that you want a certain type of floor and a certain type of flooring, and it shows up and you don't like it, but it's not in the contract, guess what? They may not be obligated to change anything, okay? If the language isn't clear enough in the contract of the type of flooring that was supposed to be used, including images, you're in trouble. So when you're dealing with contractors, you have to understand that a lot of them aren't really good at business. They're really good at construction. You're going to have to bring the business element to check off boxes. You may have they may do really, really good work. And I've dealt with this a lot. They do really, really good work, but they're terrible at business and terrible with details and terrible with schedules. You have to iron that out and make sure your expectations are set. And those expectations should be set in the contract. If it's not in the contract with dealing with contractors, it doesn't exist. And guess what? If they're not an actual contractor, you've got a contract that isn't even enforceable because they're not even licensed. So again, a lot of mistakes people make. It's why I strongly recommend if you're going to do an addition on your house, it takes so much. And there's so many things that get done sloppy when you don't do it right. We've seen additions where, they did like really low quality work and they're like, well, I spent $100,000 on this addition. Well, somebody's going to come in and want to tear it out because it's a horrible job. Like you're creating all this extra risk. And when things aren't done right, you didn't really add the value that you thought you'd add. You wasted a whole lot of time. And now someone's going to devalue that space because it wasn't done appropriately because corners were cut. So hopefully that helps. Again, sell your house, buy another one, call the Duncan Duo, theduncanduo.com. We'll be back after a quick break here on the Duncan Duo Show. So back here on the Duncan Duo Show, talking about the Tampa Bay real estate market. Andrew Duncan, the Duncan Duo team, LPT Realty, at the Duncan Duo on all social channels. One of the questions we get a lot is, what should I do before I sell my house? What are the things that I need to do to prepare it for selling? Well, first off, if you hire us, we're going to sell your house. Start moving now. Start packing now. The biggest mistake that I see being made the biggest mistakes that I see made by home sellers are generally on things that don't cost a lot of money. Okay. Things like landscaping cleanup. Okay. Look at your house from the eyes of a buyer. Okay. What is it that's going to make the customer not love your house? Okay. First, the curb appeal. Your lawn needs to be freshly cut. Pressure wash. Deal with any oil stains, throw down some fresh mulch. You don't need to repaint the whole house. You don't need all kinds of crazy plants. You don't need to lay all new sod. You don't need to replace the mailbox. You just need to clean things up, okay? So pressure wash, removing oil stains, okay? There's products on Amazon that are like $10 that you can pour on and let soak overnight that'll remove the oil stains. I use them in my house all the time. Remove oil stains, pressure wash, and then freshen up the mulch up front, trim the bushes, make sure the lawn is freshly mowed all the time. Those are simple things on the outside. The inside, you want to remove, think like if you were walking into a builder's home, a builder model. Okay. You don't see a lot of personal photos. You don't see a lot of personal artifacts. Okay. You don't see a lot of clutter. You want to declutter. Okay. Start packing as if you're going to move, especially if you hired us. If you hired somebody else, maybe you're going to be there a while. Okay. But if you hired us, start packing now. Okay. And declutter. Get rid of items that make the home feel like yours. Here's what I mean. Okay. This is funny because I walked through a house in Beach Park a couple of years ago, and the customer, they didn't end up hiring us because they didn't like my advice, but their daughter, it's like like one beauty pageants. They literally had a shrine to their daughter. Like it was impressive. It was an entire 11-foot tall ceiling wall covered with her photos, trophies, awards. It was like a mural. It was crazy. Okay. I told them that your house is not going to sell as long as that's there. If you truly want to sell, you've got to take all that down. They were super offended. Okay. They didn't hire us. The house sat on the market through 6 agents before it finally sold. Years on the market. I remember looking it up, and when it sold, of course, the shrine to their daughter wasn't there anymore. If they'd have listened from the beginning, it would have sold. But the problem is that when that's there, it labels the home so much yours, and that buyer needs to fall in love with your house. It needs to feel like their house. It can't feel like their house if you have a shrine to your beauty pageant daughter all over the wall. It's like, falling in love. You're not gonna be able to fall in love with someone while you're going on dates with their current partner. Okay, that's what it feels like. All right, the shrine to your NASCAR collection, all the personal photos, all the things that label the house to be yours need to come down. It needs to be decluttered. Those need to be put away and packed for your next house, especially if you're going to sell. That allows you also to emotionally detach from the house and think about it as a financial decision instead of, the shrine to your daughter. Okay. So declutter, that means lighten up the furniture load. If you walk into a room and it's just crowded with furniture, some of that furniture needs to go. If you walk into a room and there's just rugs everywhere and there are all kinds of different design rugs, those got to go. Like it's got to have a certain flow and symmetry to it. And all the personal items need to come down. Neutral colors, paint can go a long way. Decluttering paint and cleaning floors, polishing floors, patching up holes, any cosmetic things that can be seen need to be taken care of. If there are defects that you know about, the buyer is going to leverage those things into more money. Okay. If an item's going to cost you $500 to repair it because the buyer's going to ask you they're going to over exaggerate. Okay. They're going to use it to their advantage because they know they have the leverage, and they're going to ask for $2,000 or $3,000 for some simple, dumb repair. Take care of stuff now. Cosmetic repairs, address them because buyers see those and they think, oh, well, if they didn't fix the ceiling, they didn't clear up the stain, they didn't repaint it, then there's probably other things that are wrong with the house. It's going to lower their opinion of what's behind the walls that they can't see. Anything they can visibly see that's broken or wrong makes them think that there are other things wrong with the house. Okay. So fix all the cosmetic stuff, declutter, pack up. And look, if you don't want to pay for storage, a place that things can go where people are okay with it being a little bit cluttered is the garage. Maybe you park outside for a little bit and you load your garage up with storage. As long as someone's not like a car fanatic, it's likely that they're going to walk into the garage and measure it for size. They don't need it to be like, again, if you don't want to pay for storage. Of course, I'm a car guy. I love seeing a clean garage. I love seeing, nice flooring and cool things in the garage, but at the same time, I'm an anomaly. I'm not the average consumer. The average consumer just wants to see the garage to make sure it's big enough to park their cars. And if you've got stacks of boxes in it, you're going to be okay. Okay. Of course, if you can move it to storage, if you can move it somewhere else, great. But if not, it can go in the garage if you don't want to spend the money. But it needs to get out of the main living areas. Those are the areas that people fall in love. You want someone, the longer someone stays in your house and feels comfortable, okay, AKA it doesn't feel like they're intruding in someone else's home, the more likely they are to buy it. So eliminate everything you possibly can that would make them feel like they're intruding or that it couldn't be their home. If you have the daughter's beauty pageant shrine on an 11-foot, by 15-foot wall with hundreds of photos and trophies and awards, they're not going to be able to fall in love with your house. They're just not. Okay. All right, so hopefully that helps you understand. Those are some tips: decluttering, freshening up the landscaping, cleaning up any cosmetic items, packing stuff up away, neutral paint colors, and then last but not least, have your home professionally cleaned, especially if you've got animals. I've got 2 dogs. If I ever sell my house, which I don't have plans to, but if I ever did, I would need to make sure that my house is cleaned and vacuumed. I would need the Roomba running all the time to make sure there isn't dog hair everywhere. So, have your house professionally cleaned on the regular. You want people to walk in. You want it to smell nice. You want it to be fresh and clean because then they'll stay longer. So hopefully those tips help you. And if you're somebody that is going to sell your house in the new year, maybe your home failed to sell with another agent, maybe you didn't get what you wanted done this year, go to DuncanDuo.com. Again, that's DuncanDuo.com, and have an awesome rest of your week, Tampa Bay.